Content Area Literacies for the Social Studies class by Laura, Felicia, and myself, Brianna. The literacy demands and the typical text used in a social studies or history classroom. The literacy demands for a history teacher has changed because the new Common Core standards have asked that these content area teachers use more literacy and teaching of literacy in their classes. A history teacher should improve students' comprehension by helping them to think critically about the text they are reading. History text is not pure fact, unlike what most students believe in grades kindergarten to 5th grade. In fact, a history text is just that author's opinion and interpretation of the historical event. Students should be able to read their textbook and other sources to make sense of them and build their own interpretations of the events that they're learning about. The text is just a tool to help them think and analyze and learn about the events. We don't want our students memorizing dates and people from the past. The goal for the history classroom should really focus on students being able to think critically so that they can be informed and engaged citizens. The problem with the textbook is huge. The text is not easily comprehended. Oftentimes you'll have a lot of students where the textbook is not at their reading level. Students cannot relate to them, and therefore, since they can't make a connection to their current situations, there's a loss of engagement. Minority groups are often not portrayed in the textbook, and if they are, it's not always very clear. There's little or no prior knowledge. Large amounts of information is given, and it's difficult for a student to understand what the important facts are and where they should be focusing. Oftentimes you'll see teachers teaching very quickly, and it's superficial because they're just skimming through what's in the text and moving on so that they can cover the whole text within their year, rather than really focusing their attention on one event, reading multiple sources, primary and secondary, and thinking deeply about that event. Because of this quick, superficial teaching, sometimes the key concepts and main ideas are missed or not understood by all of the students. And finally, there's academic vocabulary within history alone that can often be challenging because there are multiple meanings for the word, and the student is not sure which meaning it is that's being used. Since the textbook alone is such a huge problem, we really should be focusing on using a variety of sources. Multiple sources with different purposes and structures are really important in the social studies classroom. Students should be able to pick up a piece of text and understand what the author's purpose was for writing it and being able to comprehend what's being shown. Laura will go into more detail about this later on. A lot of times, your content area teachers will be reluctant to getting into this deeper literacy teaching, and it really is not as complicated as it sounds. What a teacher really needs to do is start off the year by modeling and then scaffolding the students. Students can begin by working in small groups, then into pairs. Eventually, they will be able to comprehend any piece of text that's given to them because they'll have the strategies and the skills that they need to understand what this text is saying. For example, if you have a political cartoon, the student should be able to look at that cartoon from that time period and understand whose side the author is on. Finally, I'm going to leave you with essential questions. Since we do not want to just assign textbook pages for the students to read and vocabulary to define, we really want to begin to structure our social studies classroom with essential questions for the students to focus on. Rather than memorizing, we know that these things often just go right into their short-term memory and then they're lost. So instead, we want students to be able to look at these texts and create their own experience and interpretation of these events.